Good morning. We often think winning is about crossing the finish line first or achieving a massive milestone. But in reality, the greatest leaders, the most fulfilled people, don't win once in a while, they learn to win every single day. Not by chance, but by design. Winning daily isn't about being better than someone else. It's about being better than who you were yesterday. It's not about perfection, it's about consistency, because small daily wins create unstoppable momentum. So today, I want to talk to you about 10 ways to win every day, organized into 6 powerful principles. Let's begin. Winning every day begins long before the world sees you doing anything. It starts in silence. In the space between waking up and stepping into the noise of the world, most people open their eyes and immediately fall into rhythm, habit, routine, urgency. They wake up because the alarm told them to. They check their phones because habit told them to. They head into their day carried by momentum they did not choose. But leaders, those who truly win, do something different. They don't just wake up to an alarm, they wake up to a purpose. Purpose is the thing that fuels commitment without pressure. It turns ordinary days into meaningful experiences and simple tasks into acts of contribution. When you wake up with purpose, you don't ask, "What do I have to do today?" You ask, "Why does today matter?" It is a subtle shift, but that shift changes everything. Because once purpose becomes your reason for waking up, the day stops being something to survive and becomes something to design. Purpose is not about having everything figured out. It's not about knowing exactly what steps to take. It's about knowing the direction. It's about acknowledging that what you do today, no matter how small, plays a role in the story you're writing with your life. Simon Sinek often reminds us, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And that principle applies to ourselves too. It is hard to stay motivated by tasks, but easy to stay committed to purpose. When you start the day with why, the what becomes clearer. Think about the difference between 2 mornings. One person wakes up thinking, "I need to get through this day," while another wakes up thinking, "Today, I will contribute to something that matters." One is reactive, the other is intentional, and the people who live intentionally win because they are not depending on circumstances to give them meaning. They bring meaning with them. Many people underestimate the power of the first few minutes of their day, but those first few minutes set the tone. They are the foundation on which the rest of the day is built. If you start your day with stress, urgency, and distraction, your mind is already in defense mode. But if you begin with clarity, vision, and purpose, you enter the world as a creator, not a reactor. One way to anchor this is by setting one meaningful intention each morning, not a list of tasks, not a checklist. Just one intention. Ask yourself, if I were to do only one thing today exceptionally well, what would it be? And more importantly, why does that matter? That intention could be as simple as today, I will listen more deeply. Or today, I will help someone move forward. Or today, I will give my best to this project because it serves something greater. The key is to choose something aligned with purpose, not with pressure. When you start with purpose, you create direction. And when you have direction, your energy aligns. Without purpose, the day drains you. With purpose, the same day fuels you. Most people confuse busyness with progress. But you can be incredibly busy and still go nowhere if you don't start with the right reason. Purpose converts action into impact. There's an old saying, a person with a why can endure almost anyhow. That means when you know why you are doing something, you are not easily discouraged by obstacles or setbacks. You see challenges as part of the journey, not as interruptions. You understand that discomfort is often a sign that you are moving towards something that matters. Purpose gives you resilience. The beautiful thing about starting with purpose is that it doesn't require extraordinary effort. It requires awareness, reflection, a moment of quiet before the noise begins. Imagine if every morning you spent just 60 seconds reminding yourself why today matters. Not for the world to see, but for you to feel. You would begin to notice changes in how you speak, how you listen, how you lead, how you respond. You would no longer chase wins, you would create them. Leadership isn't about being in charge, it's about taking responsibility for something larger than yourself. And your day is your first act of leadership. If you want to win every day, you must lead your day before it leads you. You must begin with purpose, because when you wake up with purpose, you don't need motivation. You become the motivation. You don't wait for the day to bring meaning. You bring meaning into the day. That is how winning truly begins. In quiet intention, in that first breath of consciousness, in the decision that today, once again, you will live on purpose, not just on time. There's a moment right at the start of every day when your mind is open, unfiltered, unguarded, impressionable, and it's in that moment where the foundation of your entire day is quietly laid. Most people don't even notice it. They wake up and immediately step into the world's urgency. They check their phones, they compare, they react. And without realizing it, they hand over the steering wheel of their day to distraction. But those who consistently win understand something crucial. Before you step into the day, you must shape your mind, or the day will shape it for you. Great leaders don't wake up perfect. They wake up intentional. They begin by asking themselves not what they need to do today, but how they need to think today. Because the truth is, how you think determines how you act, and how you act determines how you lead. Priming the mind isn't about avoiding stress or pretending everything is fine. It's about preparing your thoughts to face reality from strength instead of uncertainty. The world will test you. It always does. But if your first thoughts of the day are rooted in possibility, grounded in gratitude, and focused on growth, then no challenge, no criticism, no distraction can easily throw you off center. Take gratitude as an example. It sounds simple, maybe even cliché, but there's a reason highly effective leaders practice it daily. Gratitude is the antidote to fear. It shifts your attention from what's missing to what's already working. It's difficult to feel overwhelmed when you start the day acknowledging what you already have, and it's even more difficult to make decisions based on fear when your mind begins in abundance. Gratitude is not naive optimism, it's strategic perspective. When you choose to reflect on one or two things, you deeply appreciate perhaps an opportunity, a lesson learned from failure, or even a person who believes in you. Your emotional state rises. You stop chasing validation and start operating from worthiness. You stop reacting out of scarcity and start contributing out of strength. But priming the mind goes beyond gratitude. It's also about what you feed your thoughts. Imagine beginning your day by consuming content that fuels comparison, urgency, or negativity. Your decisions will begin from that mental posture. On the other hand, if you take just 5 minutes to read something aspirational, listen to something thoughtful, or reflect on something meaningful, you align your thinking with the level you want to lead from. Leaders don't rise to the level of the day, they rise to the level of their preparation. What you pour into your mind early becomes the emotional currency you spend throughout the day. Enthusiasm, patience, clarity, all are shaped by what you mentally absorb before action begins. It's easy to underestimate the power of small morning rituals, but what you repeatedly expose your mind to shapes your identity. And identity drives behavior. If you begin your day with thoughts like "I am behind," or "I have too much to do," your actions will reflect overwhelm. But if instead you begin with "I have the opportunity to make an impact today," or "I will learn, I will contribute," you move proactively. You move with intention. Simon Sinek often speaks about the power of perspective, and how great leaders are driven by belief. Belief doesn't start at the podium, it starts in quiet moments before the day begins. You don't develop leadership in meetings. You develop it in reflection. You don't find clarity in chaos, you create it before chaos arrives. So, tomorrow morning, before you touch your phone, before the world demands your attention, do something for your mind. Reflect on what you're grateful for. Read something that sharpens you. Journal your purpose. Remind yourself not of what you need to do, but of why you're here at all. Because a clear mind makes better decisions. A prepared mind leads with intention, and here's the real truth. Most people lose their day at the start, not the end. They let the first moments go to randomness rather than direction, but those who win daily don't wait for the day to inspire them. They wake up and prime their mind to lead, to serve, and to grow. Because winning isn't about starting busy. It's about starting aligned, and when your mind begins aligned, the rest of your day falls into place. Before we can lead others, before we can show up with our best ideas, our creativity, our patience, our presence, we need energy. Not just physical energy, but emotional and mental stamina. The kind of energy that allows us to stay composed when things go wrong, that enables us to listen without defensiveness, that helps us find solutions instead of frustrations. And that energy does not come from caffeine. It comes from how we treat ourselves. The biggest mistake high achievers make is believing that endurance is a sign of strength. That going without rest, ignoring their body's needs, skipping meals, sacrificing sleep somehow makes them more committed. But pushing harder isn't the path to winning. Sustaining longer is. True commitment isn't about burning out fast. It's about showing up strong, over and over again, for as long as it takes. And the people who win consistently know that energy is not an afterthought. It is an asset. Think of your energy like fuel. You wouldn't expect a car to run efficiently if you never filled the tank or ignored the gauges. Yet so many of us expect our minds to deliver clarity while our bodies are exhausted. We expect to communicate effectively while we're dehydrated. We expect creativity while we've been sitting still for hours. We ask for peak performance but rarely create the conditions for it. Simon Sinek often reminds us that leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in our charge. But how can we take care of others if we haven't first taken care of ourselves? You cannot serve from an empty vessel. You cannot inspire if your energy is depleted. So taking care of your energy isn't self-centered, it's service-oriented. Because the more you care for your energy, the more consistently you can contribute. Movement is one of the simplest, most powerful ways to generate energy. Not exercise for aesthetics or weight loss. Movement for oxygen, for clarity, for life. A short walk, stretching, a few minutes of deep breathing. These aren't luxuries. These are strategies. Movement activates the body, which activates the mind. Some of the greatest leaders in history have said their best ideas came while walking. Not while typing, not while rushing, but while moving. The second piece is fuel. What you eat is not just nutrition, it's performance programming. Heavy, processed food pulls energy away from your brain to your digestion. Clean, light, purposeful fuel gives energy to your brain. It sharpens attention. It improves mood. It supports resilience. The food you put in your body before an important interaction is an investment into that interaction. The water you drink before making a big decision literally affects cognitive function. These are not wellness tips. They are leadership principles, and let's talk about rest, not lying down, not collapsing into bed at 2 a.m. Rest, giving your body time to recover. Challenge this. What if recovery is not what happens after the work, but a prerequisite to perform the work well? Athletes don't recover because they are tired. They recover so they can continue to perform. Leaders should do the same. A recharged mind is better at strategy. A rested body is more present in conversation. The truth is, some of the most important work happens when you are not actively working. Many people think discipline is about ignoring what your body wants, but discipline is recognizing what your body needs. If your body needs movement, honor that. If it needs hydration, give it water. If it needs rest, give it recovery. Because your body is not a tool to get you through the day. It is the vehicle through which you create impact. Imagine someone walking into a room exhausted, depleted, running on stress. They might deliver words, but they can't deliver presence. Now imagine someone who enters after a morning walk, after being hydrated, rested, centered. They don't just speak, they influence. Because energy is palpable, it is felt. Winning daily means showing up with enough mental and emotional energy to lead with intention. And that starts not by asking, what do I need to do today, but what do I need to feel today, feel supported. Feel energized, feel aligned, because at the end of the day, you cannot give what you do not have. And the greatest leaders are great not because they work more, but because they sustain longer. Energy is not just part of success. It is the foundation for it. And those who consistently win don't push until burnout. They refuel before they run empty. That is how you keep showing up not just today, but every day. Most people don't lose their day because they don't work hard enough. They lose their day because they don't own their time. They wake up and let the world decide what matters. They let urgency outrank importance. They say yes to what's loud instead of what's meaningful. But those who win consistently understand something deeply powerful. Time is not something to be filled. Time is something to be directed. There's a subtle difference between being busy and being effective. Busy people fill their schedules. Effective people fill their schedules with purpose. The people who win every day don't do more. They do what matters most. They don't start with to-do lists. They start with intention. Because when you start with purpose, every minute becomes an opportunity to advance it. You can't control everything that happens to you today, but you can absolutely control how you prioritize it. That's what leaders do. They design their days instead of reacting to them. They look beyond immediate demands and ask the harder question, which actions today drive meaningful progress tomorrow? Because not all activity produces value. Some simply produces noise. Simon Sinek often teaches that leadership is about clarity, clarity of why. And clarity in leadership is directly connected to clarity in time management. When you know why something matters, it's easier to know when to say no. Focus is not about having tunnel vision. Focus is about having the courage to admit that not everything deserves equal attention. Think of time as a currency. Spend it carelessly, and it disappears quickly with little return. Invest it intentionally, and you build something meaningful. Successful leaders guard their time not because they're selfish, but because they're stewards of impact. They understand that every yes to something insignificant is a silent no to progress, and often the bravest decision you can make is to say no, not to be difficult, but to be effective. Here's the truth. Most of us are overwhelmed not because we have too much to do, but because we don't distinguish what truly matters from what simply feels urgent. Emails feel urgent, notifications feel urgent, social expectations feel urgent, but what builds growth often appears quiet planning, reflecting, strategizing. We rarely schedule thinking, yet thinking is what precedes breakthroughs. Imagine two people. One starts the day with tasks. The other starts with clarity. One asks, what must I finish today? The other asks, what must I move forward today? Their calendars may look similar, but their trajectories are completely different. One rushes through activity. The other advances purpose. Owning your time means pausing before reacting. It means asking, does this align with what I'm building? Leaders don't measure success by how much they do. They measure it by how deeply they contribute, and contribution is always the result of attention. What receives your attention expands. Often the challenge isn't chaos, it's lack of intention. The day throws distractions at everyone, but those who win don't avoid distractions, they prioritize them. They schedule time to think, time to reflect, time to work deeply, and crucially, time to disconnect. Because constant availability is not a strength, it's a symptom of misalignment. Availability without boundaries is the enemy of focus. When you own your time, interruptions become decisions instead of defaults. People who lead well will sometimes pause before responding, not because they are distant, but because they are deliberate. They understand that urgency belongs to others, but responsibility belongs to themselves. Here's something powerful. Saying no is not rejection. It is redirection. Every no protects the yes that matters most. And often, the people who move the world forward are not the ones who said yes the most, but the ones who said yes to things that truly aligned. Time ownership is not about doing things faster, but doing them truer. Truer to your values, your purpose, your growth. At the end of each day, ask yourself not, did I finish everything, but did I invest in what matters? That question shifts your life from activity to progress. Because ultimately, winning daily is not about squeezing more into your schedule. It's about designing your schedule to reflect who you are becoming. If you don't lead your time will lead you, and nobody wins by accident. Win intentionally, 1 hour at a time. One of the most powerful truths about winning is that it's rarely achieved alone. We often think of success as something personal, our goals, our progress, our results. But look closely at people who win consistently, and you'll notice something profound. They don't rise because they push themselves higher. They rise because they lift others along the way. True daily winning isn't just about advancing forward, it's about advancing together. And that begins with service. When you wake up with the intention to help someone, whether through support, guidance, encouragement, or simple kindness, you shift from a mindset of self-preservation to one of contribution. And contribution is the birthplace of fulfillment. Simon Sinek often reminds us that leadership is not about being in charge, it's about caring for those in your charge. That principle doesn't just apply in corporations, it applies in everyday life. A day where you've helped someone move forward is never wasted. Think about the power a single encouraging word can have. There are people walking around feeling unseen, unheard, and unsure, waiting for someone to recognize them. And sometimes the smallest act of kindness, acknowledging effort, expressing belief, offering guidance, can change the entire direction of someone's day, even their future. Winning isn't just what you accomplish, it's what you inspire in others. When we serve others, our problems don't disappear, but our perspective shifts. Service reminds us that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. And when we see ourselves as contributors rather than competitors, our energy moves from anxiety to purpose. People don't burn out because they are doing too much. They burn out because they are doing too little of what makes them feel alive. And service makes us feel alive because humans are wired for connection. Imagine stepping into your day not asking, "What can I get today?" but asking, "Who can I support today?" That question automatically places you in a leadership posture. Because leadership begins not with authority, but with responsibility. The responsibility to make an environment better than you found it, even if it's just a conversation. Service doesn't require grand gestures. It can be as simple as truly listening to someone without interrupting. Offering help without waiting to be asked, sharing credit instead of keeping it, these actions build trust. And trust builds relationships, and relationships build success. Your daily win might not be the biggest sale or the fastest result. It might be the moment someone walked away feeling valued. One of the greatest strengths a leader can show is the ability to lift others without diminishing themselves. Weak leadership hoards praise and opportunity. Strong leadership distributes them, and ironically, the more we elevate others, the more influence we gain. Not because we seek it, but because we earn it. There's another beautiful truth. Helping others doesn't just improve their day, it improves yours. A study once found that people who perform acts of kindness report higher well-being than those who receive them. And that makes sense. When you act with compassion, you align with the best part of yourself. That alignment brings clarity, calm, and confidence. But serving others is not about being overly accommodating or losing yourself in the needs of others. Service, when driven by purpose, is intentional. It is not about pleasing. It is about empowering. You don't carry others. You help them walk stronger. You don't solve everything for them. You help them believe they can do it. Great leaders don't wait for crisis to show care. They make care their daily practice. They understand that people might forget what you said, but they rarely forget how you made them feel. And if you can leave people feeling seen, capable, and energized, you haven't just won your day. You've helped someone else win theirs. So tomorrow, don't just wake up with goals. Wake up with someone in mind you can support. A team member, a friend, a family member, or even a stranger. Look for one moment to make their day lighter, their confidence stronger, or their path clearer. Because success built alone collapses under pressure. Success built together stands the test of time. And if you want to win every day, then every day, help someone else win too. That is how momentum spreads. That is how leadership multiplies. And that is what winning truly means, not alone, but together. There's a moment at the end of every day when the world becomes quiet again. The emails slow down. The calls are done. The meetings end, and what remains is you, alone with your thoughts. Most people rush past this moment. They move straight from doing into distraction, onto the next thing, without reflecting on the day they just lived. But the people who win consistently don't skip this moment. They honor it, because reflection is not looking back. It's preparing to move forward wiser. Quiet movements become powerful reminders of life taking shape, and progress requires awareness. You cannot improve what you do not notice. That's why reflection is essential, not to criticize yourself, but to understand yourself. Not to judge the day, but to learn from it. When you take a moment at the end of the day simply to ask, what did I do well today? And what could I do better tomorrow? You begin a process of continuous growth. You give yourself credit where it's earned, and you hold yourself accountable where it's needed. Most people either see only what they did wrong and stay discouraged, or focus only on what they did right and stay stagnant. But leaders, those who win daily, balance both. They celebrate their wins, however small, and use their lessons, however challenging. Simon Sinek often reminds us that leadership is not about being perfect. It's about being human. Humans make mistakes. Humans learn, humans improve. Reflection allows us to see our humanity clearly without shame. It gives us the humility to adjust and the confidence to continue. Think of reflection as a daily reset, a cleaning of mental and emotional clutter. Through reflection, you let go of the stress that no longer serves you. You recognize progress that you may have overlooked. You see patterns, reactions, decisions, habits that either propel or sabotage your growth. And by naming them, you regain control. People often seek massive breakthroughs, yet ignore the small shifts that lead to them. But it's the small daily insights, recognizing where you reacted instead of responded, where you avoided instead of engaged, where you spoke rather than listened, that, over time, transform how you think and lead. Reflection turns experience into wisdom. One powerful practice is to track one daily win. Just one, no matter how minor it seems. Maybe you stayed calm in a difficult conversation. Maybe you helped someone without being asked. Maybe you completed something you'd been delaying. When you acknowledge these wins, you reinforce belief in your ability to move forward. You remind yourself that progress happened today, and that builds momentum. Then ask, what can I do a little better tomorrow? Notice the phrasing, not what did I fail at, but what can be improved. That shift removes shame and replaces it with responsibility. You're not identifying weaknesses, you're identifying opportunities. Leaders love opportunities. Over time, this practice creates what Simon calls an infinite mindset. Instead of thinking in terms of success or failure within a single day, you begin to see each day as part of a bigger journey. Some days will feel like wins, others like losses, but both are valuable, because growth does not come from always getting it right. It comes from always returning to purpose. Reflection also builds emotional resilience, because when you process your day consciously, you release what would otherwise carry over into tomorrow. Many conflicts are not about what happens today. They're reactions to things left unresolved yesterday. Reflection clears that residue. It helps you enter tomorrow with clarity rather than carry forward what weighs you down. The most powerful leaders do not end their day by collapsing. They end it by realigning. They ask, did I live today in alignment with my values? If yes, they recommit. If not, they recalibrate. That's how consistency is built, not through pressure, but through repeated alignment. Winning isn't just how you show up, it's also how you conclude, because how you end today determines how you start tomorrow. So at the end of each day, pause, not to criticize, not to glorify, simply to recognize and refine. Ask yourself, what did I contribute today? What did I learn today? And how will I grow tomorrow? Because true winners don't just live their days, they learn from them. And when you combine purpose at the beginning with reflection at the end, you don't just win the day. You become someone who wins consistently, not by accident, not by perfection, but by intention, to improve, to contribute, to grow, one day at a time. Winning isn't a destination. It's a daily decision. It's not the loud achievements, but the silent disciplines that build greatness. Every day you wake up with purpose. Activate your mind, protect your energy, manage your time, serve someone, and end with reflection. You are winning. Leadership isn't about having the right answers, it's about asking the right questions. So starting tomorrow morning, ask yourself, how will I win today? And if every day you move just 1 inch forward one day, you'll look back and realize you didn't just win days, you won your life. Thank you.